Hey Computer, play About Bees podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again to another episode of About Bees, Culture, and Curiosity with Ron Miksha and
Bidzina Mosiashvili.
Bidzina. Hi.
Hi.
So, how was your last week?
It was good. And I completely forgot to bring your honey. I have your honey processed.
I'll bet you don't.
No, I do. I have it in the bucket, and
Good.
it looks beautiful.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
I try to do your batch as separately as much as possible.
Sure.
Obviously, there probably
there's going to be some mix. Yep.
But what ended up happening is your honey is still liquid from your backyard.
Yep.
It's slightly darker in color.
Oh, okay.
But very clear. Mm-hmm. But it's more like amber, not, but very like a light amber.
That's okay.
And but my honey from the Strathmore location,
White, huh?
all white, a lot of canola.
Yeah.
And before I got to it, they crystallized in the buckets.
No way.
Yes.
It crystallized in the buckets.
In the I don't know, they're about 50-pound honey buckets. 50-pound. I have 4 buckets that have crystallized. About 200 pounds of honey
Has turned solid on you already.
Yeah.
Well, you can reverse that, and one of these times we're gonna have to have an episode on how to take care of honey. Like we talked about honey, how to keep it from granulating before you extract it, so it doesn't get hard inside the combs. But we're going to have to do an episode where we're talking about just what do you do next?
It was wild. It was wild because your honey is still liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just that
and
much
it's
of a
been in the
difference.
same kind of very similar conditions.
Well, I think the big difference is, geographically, we are a lot further away from the canola. Mm. And when you're east of the city of Calgary, you're out on the prairies, and obviously there's going to be a lot of canola out there. I mean, that's canola country.
There is, especially in August, the honey that you're getting in August and July. Yeah. But today, that's not what we're going to be. You mentioned we're not going to be talking about granulation.
Right, not today.
Yeah. How was your week?
Oh, it was pretty good. I can't even recall some of the things I did. I had some have some side businesses, so I had some work going on there. Did a little bit of writing, and kept myself pretty busy every day. And this weekend, though, I've got something really exciting going on, and we're recording on a Friday. So I'm preparing tonight to do a road trip, about 11-hour round-trip road trip, and it's to my old stomping grounds in southern Saskatchewan. That's where, when I moved to Canada, that's where I settled, and I lived there for 10 or 12 years and kept bees in the Frenchman River Valley, which is now close to the Grasslands National Park. So
we're back to episode 0.
Episode 0, back to my life's history. I'm not going to get into that, but that's looking forward to the trip.
That's incredible that you're doing that. When's the last time you've made this trip?
Oh, actually, I did stop by a bit over a year ago.
Oh, I see.
My son who is attending McGill University. McGill is in Montreal, Quebec.
Right.
We are in Calgary, Alberta.
Yep.
And we're separated by a distance of probably 3,500 kilometers.
Yeah, quite far.
It is a long road trip. So I drove across northern Canada, kind of central northern Canada. I didn't go up to the Arctic, but I did go through a lot of the Precambrian Shield. I went over and picked him up.
You just
by myself.
By yourself?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Which is a little tricky when you have a wheelchair because as long as I'm driving, I'm fine. I've got hand controls for my van, and I'm comfortable, and I just really enjoy the road trip, the independence, the sightseeing. But every time I had to stop, then I had to make my way around to the back, pull my wheelchair out of the van, and get set up and stop for dinner or lunch or to sleep. I slept 2 nights on the road.
I see. Do you ever have dreams of your car being a transformer?
No, I don't know why I don't have those dreams.
Just like kind of a small one, not a bit, but
Yeah.
And it can walk you into turns into a wheelchair, and then it turns into a car.
Wow. And a helicopter, I hope, too, because that would be the most fun of all, sitting in the helicopter flying around. So anyhow, getting back to the last time I was in southern Saskatchewan, I picked up my son Daniel. It was the end of the school year, so it was around early May. And he and I drove together all the way back, and this time through the United States.
Wow.
So we went
the other
right. So we went from Montreal south into Vermont, and then New York State. I'd never been to the Adirondack Mountains in New York State. Beautiful area.
Yeah, that's right.
And spring was just sort of happening. So everywhere we went, especially as we went further south, we saw more and more flowers.
Wow.
And it just got so nice to see. Stopped in the place where I grew up, the farm that I lived on for the first 18 years of my life, and that's in western Pennsylvania, north of Pittsburgh. Stopped to see family and friends that lived further west, and then continued our trip through Minnesota, North Dakota, a good chunk of Montana, and then north from Montana crossed into Saskatchewan, not too far from the village of Val Marie, which is the headquarters for the Grasslands National Park.
Right.
So it made this huge loop. I can't remember if it was, in the end, it was over 9,000 kilometers of driving, and a little less than half of that with my son.
And you would, so you go out to your this area in Saskatchewan often, or is this?
No, I had
not.
I hadn't gone very often. So last year was the first time in quite a while.
Oh.
And, actually, a couple of years before that I had, but then there'd been about a 10-year hiatus where I did not go back to see my old friends and the house I used to own, the shop that I used to work out of, all of that stuff.
Is someone else operating that area now? Or?
Yeah, there are actually two beekeepers in that town, and with about 10,000 acres of irrigated alfalfa and sweet clover, they're making some gorgeous water-white honey, very low moisture because it's basically an irrigated desert valley. And so I did get to see, how the shop was looking, what people were doing there. And I have friends that live on a Hutterite colony, really close, good friends of mine. So I spent some time visiting them and a couple of other folks in the area there, some people who have been friends for a long, long time, since the mid-1970s. So what does that make it, 50 years?
Incredible.
Yes. So anyhow, I'm going back on the weekend. This time, I'm not going alone. I'm going to take one of my older children. I have a daughter who's the mom of 5 kids, and she has managed to figure out a way to leave the kids behind and just come with me on a dad-daughter road trip for 2 days.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Who could deny, Ron?
Oh, it's going to be fun. It's going to be really, really fun. So that's where I'm going on the weekend, and I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously.
Yeah, that's going to be and the weather. How is the weather? Have you looked at the weather?
They are having reasonably good weather, and while we're there, it will probably be about 20. That's the prediction, and sunny. So 20 Celsius. It's about 68 Fahrenheit. So it'll be very pleasant.
Yeah, I know sunflower likes to grow this time of year.
Yeah.
Will you come across any sunflower fields or anything like that?
I don't think so, actually. In that area, they don't plant sunflowers. It's just too dry. And what they are irrigating in the valley is for alfalfa to feed the cattle.
I see.
So that's what we will see that will still be in bloom. And as we go across southern Alberta to get into Saskatchewan, we'll undoubtedly see pronghorn, antelope.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and lots of badlands. And yeah, looking forward to it. Nice road trip.
Yeah, the pronghorn antelope is actually very unique because I think it's the fastest deer species or antelope species.
I didn't know that.
Or one of the fastest, and the reason is because it evolved with the North American cheetah and the North American lion. So 10, 20,000 years ago, or I don't know how long, but
it's about that time.
Yeah, there was a North American cheetah, North American lion that would chase these things.
Yeah,
but they no longer exist.
Right, around 15,000 years years ago, there was that huge die-off of North American big animals.
Right. I don't know the exact term, but the pronghorn still managed to survive.
Right,
and they're still fast as ever.
Wow. So we get to see them, and I don't know what their predators are these days. I know there are wolves and coyotes out and about. So
I think fences and humans.
Fences and humans, sure.
Because they really love to run.
Yeah.
And
oh, I've watched them. They, if you listen really closely and see, you're watching the pronghorn and it jumps straight up in the air. It's like boing, boing. They make that sound,
Wow, I've never
It's their
seen
knees. No, I'm making that part up.
Okay.
No, it's not their knees. Okay, so today, what are we doing today?
Yeah. I was just going to say, they're kind of like the kangaroo of southern Alberta. Nah, not really.
Well,
they're all over the place. They're very odd.
The mule deer would be a good contender for that role
right,
too, because they also bounce quite a lot. But the pronghorn,
but they're always on the road, just out and about for no reason. They love the highways.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, and that's something I have to be careful of because we're recording this in mid-September, probably be airing in mid-October or later. And the thing I have to be aware of is on this drive. The last time I was there at this time of the year, the ditches were full of deer.
Yes, yeah.
And the reason for that is they spend a good part of their summer in the farmers' wheat fields. There's a lot of wheat grown in the area. And once the wheat is harvested, they're looking for something to eat. Okay. So they move close to the edge of the road where it's still green and where
nothing has been harvested.
That's right. That's right. So I think we probably counted 80 or 90 deer the last time I was in that area, and that's in about an hour and a half drive just between a couple of cities there, a couple of towns. This whole trip, though, 11 hours on the road, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So today, we're going to open up our mailbox. We have received some emails, and I'm including them here. Love to hear from people. If anybody has questions they want us to try to take a stab at answering, to talk about bees in general, maybe ecology and other types of insects. It's all great. We're looking forward to hearing things. But we do have some questions, and I also collected some questions directly from my blog site because I get a lot of feedback on the blog. And I thought, well, it'd be a good time to bring some questions in. And what makes it a lot of fun is if we talk about the answers, we get two viewpoints, yours and mine, and also we have a chance then to elaborate on the answers, because if I'm writing an answer, I tend to, a paragraph or so. But when we're chatting, we can talk.
Yes.
And talk.
No, I like this. So, yeah, we'll just get right into it here, and I guess I'll shoot the questions, and
we'll both try to answer. But
okay.
Yeah.
So, question number 1. Can a hive be too good for winter?
Well, that's written by an optimist, isn't it? Can a hive be too good for winter?
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Like, what do you mean too good for winter?
What I thought maybe they were asking was if the hive can be too strong going into winter, or if it can have too much honey. And I do have an answer for for both of them. I think the population, you don't have to worry too much about. You know what? This might have been written by somebody who was looking at their hives after the honey came off. And on a hot day after the honey's off, the bees could be hanging out as far as like bearding, as far as being into the grass. So that might be, is this going to be a problem? They can't all fit in a hive. So we don't worry about that. The population drop-off is sadly enormous at that, towards the end of the year. So we will see the bees go from a population of 40 or 50,000 in late August here in our area, and by the 1st of October, probably half of those bees are gone. Right. So I wouldn't worry about that part of it being too good. Now, I guess, looking at another point of view, if it's correct for going through winter and will survive, then that can't be too good. I mean, that's what you're striving for, isn't it?
That's right. That's what you're striving for. And I was also kind of thinking, are they afraid maybe their population is so high that they don't have enough honey to sustain their overwintering? Is that another worry that
probably could be on their mind when they ask a question like that. So as long as they have, in our climate, we're in Western Canada, if they have, let's say, about 90 pounds of honey in the hive, they will have enough to survive the winter.
Yeah.
And
that's more than enough, or is that a good
that's
amount?
just about enough, because typically the bees, when they're quiet, dormant, will eat about half a pound of honey a day. So that gives them 180 days supply. But if they have a good active queen, and if the spring is a bit delayed, then you may need to be out there feeding the bees in March or early April. So having that much honey. But you brought up a point about honey, that one year when we were running a commercial outfit just outside of Calgary, my brother Don and I, Don had to go around and, well, first of all, back up just a couple of steps. That year was a tremendous honey crop year.
Okay.
And September, there wasn't an early frost, and there were lots of flowers blooming and enough moisture that they were plugging out in September. And the boxes were solid, double-story colonies going into winter. All the honey was off by the 1st of September. It was all off. And they were still making like maybe 10 pounds a day, and they had nowhere to put it. So they crowded the queen down so she couldn't lay any eggs, and we were solid honey, top and bottom.
And it was kind of late.
Well, now we're looking at mid-September, let's say, okay?
Yeah, and it's probably canola honey or alfalfa, honey that's going to crystallize faster? Or
It probably would crystallize faster. The real big problem, and that's a really good point, but the really big problem is the fact that there was nowhere for the queen to lay eggs for winter bees.
Yeah.
So he went around and pulled 3 combs of honey out of the center of each of the 500 hives. Now, that's a huge job.
That is.
And he did that in, a week or so, in a few days, and replaced them with 3 dry, drawn-out combs for the queen to lay in.
And if he hadn't done that, they were surely die.
Lots of people said the next spring that their hives died and they were full of honey top and bottom.
Yeah, that's actually, wow. Because that's what I came across when I lost 75% of my colony. Like, they were filled with honey, both of the boxes. I'm like, what's going on here?
Right.
There's no, like, they had enough food.
They had enough food, but maybe they didn't build up enough winter bee population in the fall.
Yeah.
So by pulling the combs out in, mid-September or so and putting empty combs, not foundation, that would be a big mistake, and just having space for the queen to lay eggs, and then those bees would develop and have a population for winter.
So it's, wow. Well, even you're always learning something new in beekeeping, but really just keeping one hive and then running a semi-business out of beekeeping is totally different. It seems that's obvious, but it's like even running 5 hives or 10 hives and then having like a business out of it. It's just hobby. It's fun, but to make it kind of profitable or to viable or sustainable or whatever, there's so much work, and sometimes you're like, is it equivalent for the amount of reward that you get?
Well, the reward has to be not measured in money.
Right.
And if you can live that way, where you're doing something that really satisfies you, something you feel is good for other people, for the economy, for your sense of fulfillment, then as long as you're feeding the family, you might not be buying a new car every 3rd or 4th year. I saw something from a commercial beekeeper, and he made some comments about the fact that he averaged his time and his corporation's profit, and he made $1.40 an hour. That was what his time was worth for, that's how
Like,
much. But
if he was realistic about it and wrote down every single, like if he was a real employee and clocked in and out, that's how much time he was putting in.
That's how much time he was putting in.
Yeah.
Because he was working probably 12, 14-hour days, and his company was what he was building.
Right.
So a lot of people will get into the bee business and a lot of other types of farming, knowing that they're not going to live a very classy life, but they've got their freedom and they're doing something that they feel really proud of, that they're enjoying doing, and they're building up for the future. So this person then, his company, pouring all the profits back into new equipment and so on, at some point in his life, maybe in his 60s, after 30 years of doing this, this person could step back and say, okay, I'm going to start selling off beehives. I've got a couple of pieces of property I bought over the years. I can sell them. And that's the retirement. So they could retire a millionaire.
Yep.
Easily retire with the equity of $1 million and have lived on $15,000 or $20,000 a year all those years.
Right. Because using money as an initial metric is very it's going to lead you nowhere.
That's right.
For beekeeping, anyways.
For beekeeping, that's certainly true. I remember you talking about how you slept in the back of your camper when you went out to BC.
Yeah,
that's what you're supposed to do. That's what we expect you to do. Yep.
There was there was nowhere to rent, but there was a motel in town, and I think they were charging about $1,000 a month.
A month.
Yeah.
Oh,
which was,
okay.
Maybe I should have gone with it, because what ended up happening, sleeping in my back of my camper, there was a heat wave going on in BC at the time, and I developed heat stroke. Because it's maybe, get over it, whatever. But it's a serious thing if you actually get it. And it was really hot there, and there was fire. So all the heat was being trapped in the smoke. We were covered with smoke. So you couldn't breathe properly. And there was no AC. But anyways, this is kind of going on and on. But, I don't know. You're right. You're supposed to do stuff like that, but you can only do it for so long.
You can only do it for so long, and you can't put your health at risk like that. You have to be careful. I did have heat stroke once myself, and I was, I think, 20 years old, and I had driven from Wisconsin to Pennsylvania with a truckload of 300 hives of bees.
Yeah.
And I had to keep driving all night because it never got below, I think it was like 78 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 25 or so.
Even at night?
Celsius.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, even at night. So the temperature was in the 70s, and then I got to Pennsylvania, the family farm, and pulled up we were on the side of a hill, 50 acres and kind of sloping property, and I parked the big truck up there, and the bees, I opened up the back of the truck. It was all screened in so they could get air, but it was so hot that I looked in there and I could see bees on the outside of the hives everywhere. And they'd overheated, they were trying to get out, trying to get air.
Yeah.
And
even with the driving and all the airflow and whatnot.
Yeah. And now that I was stopped,
it's even more hot.
It's starting to heat up faster and faster. So I put on a white suit and gloves and boots and started unloading these bees.
Right after this long drive.
After the long drive. And I actually passed out.
Wow.
And my father was home. He was working somewhere else on the farm, and he came by to see how I was doing, and he found me, down on the ground. And I was just covered in sweat and just, delirious. And it took a while for me to get, back to breathing normally. And then I went up and he helped me, and we finished unloading.
Yeah. Man, that bee fever is real.
Yeah. Oh boy,
Yeah.
that is a bee fever when you do something that silly. But
Right. You're like, I don't care. Like, I have to unload these bees.
yeah, you do have to because they'll
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
They'll die. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So
but going
I don't
back
know.
to the question.
Yeah, can a hive be too good for winter? I guess it can be in terms that a human would look at, and would say, "Whoa, they're full of honey, and they got this huge population." But by the definition of the bees standards, I guess good is good, and they can't be too good.
Right.
They just need to survive the winter.
I've heard that some beekeepers will split their strong hives in September in nukes. They will make a strong hive into 2 or 3 nukes, and they will overwinter a nuke. So are they also maybe leading along those lines where maybe they want to create multiple splits right now because...
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know an answer to that one. That is a really good question. That the person who wrote in might have been thinking that if the hive is so strong it would be too good for winter, then maybe it would be better to divide it up.
Well, some do that, right? They put it into nukes and they and they say the nukes overwinter very, very good.
It's surprising.
Yeah.
I've never tried to winter a single-story colony of bees, so I don't have direct experience with that. But a lot of people have told me that they can take has a new queen, has enough honey for the population, and lots of insulation.
Yeah, that's right. I guess with all this new equipment, it's
Yeah. Let's see what the next question is.
Okay. But just to keep it short, no, a beehive cannot be too good for winter.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 2. Do I have to wrap my bees for winter? And I don't know why I said that way, but...
No, that's a really good question.
Just going to check my camera real quick.
Okay, you check your camera real quick. So, do you have to wrap your bees for winter? I'm going to say something that will irritate about a quarter of the people who are listening. It's 2 words that newer beekeepers, not you, but a lot of others, will have a lot of trouble with. And those 2 words are, it depends. I have been in front of groups and people would start snickering. And I said, what's wrong? And they said, well, you used the words, it depends. And I said, well, it does depend. Well, why can't you just tell us the answer?
Right.
And
well, that's the answer.
That is the answer. Well, that leads into the answer. It depends on, in this case, do you have to wrap your bees? It depends on whether you're in Florida or Southern California or Texas for the winter, or if you're in the far north.
Right.
It depends.
Or if you're doing indoor or outdoor.
Right.
Or if you got styrofoam boxes or wooden boxes.
Yes. Yeah.
But generally, I think if you're using wooden boxes, yes, you should do some sort of precaution. Even get a bee cozy. Some call it a garbage bag. Garbage bag for your bees.
They kind of look like it.
Yeah, but they do a good job.
Right.
My friend used them, and his overwintered. I mean, it was the first year, so we'll see how the second year goes.
Right.
But
No, I had good success. I had a few colonies of bees, 1 hive in each of only 9 locations. 9 locations scattered around Calgary. 1 hive in each of the 9 locations that was part of my experimental work for the university in, just the effect that honeybees have on the local ecology. And I used these bee cozies.
Yeah.
And there was, they surprised me at how conveniently, easily they slipped on.
Yes.
And you were done in a matter of a few minutes.
That's right. You could, I don't know how much extra precaution this is, or maybe, I don't even know, but you could put a bee cozy and then wrap it with styrofoam, 2-inch styrofoam, the insulation foam.
Depending on your local climate and conditions and what your hive looked like, I suppose you could make that determination on the fly. But in general, if you are in an area that has, let's say, at least a couple of months of really cold weather, it pays to at least have, even if you're not using insulation, you could still wrap the colony with some kind of black building tar paper kind of material.
Yep.
Comax is what it's branded as up here in Canada. You wrap it around the colony, and that keeps the wind from whistling through any cracks. And on a sunny day, the hive gets some extra heat. So the bees can maybe reposition themselves if they get stuck away from the honey. So the cluster might not be exactly where the honey is. But you also mentioned something else. Do you have to wrap your bees? It depends on whether or not you're using polyurethane or styro types of colonies.
Yep.
And I've gone to that here in the last 5 years. I've only used styrofoam for my brood chambers, and I love it. One of my most dreaded projects in 50 years of beekeeping was wrapping the colonies in the fall.
Yeah.
When I was out on those open prairies in southern Saskatchewan, the wind would howl. It would be, like late October. You want them to be as quiet as possible for as long as possible. You don't want to wrap too early because of heat. You don't want them to start brooding up too much.
Yeah.
You want to wrap them when they need it. And that could be into November, but November gets risky because there could be winter storms already and snow
then
on
you're
the ground.
too late.
Then you're a bit late. You have to shovel snow away in order to wrap them. I wouldn't like that, but I always dreaded going out and trying to, first of all, position the colonies in groups of 2 or 4 and putting insulation around. In those days, it was the pink insulation that, would scratch your skin and probably give you diseases.
Yeah.
And then pull around the tar paper while the wind is flipping around, and then fold it all up like a neat little Christmas package, put some rocks on top to hold everything in place, tie it up with baler twine around the outside so you have a string that holds everything tightly, maybe tack on a few strips or boards in places, strategically in places. I hated that job. So now when I found out about these styrofoam boxes, I thought that's the route.
Yeah, and so I don't know exactly what the rating. So a wood box has a R rating, insulation rating of 1.
Yes,
and then
if it's 1 inch thick.
Yeah, 1. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then the styrofoam boxes have a 7.
Yes, I think it's a 7.
Which is reasonable enough.
Oh, yeah. Could you imagine having 7 inches of wood around the sides of your hive? Like that's going to be...
actually, that's true.
Mm-hmm. Plus, on top of that, this styrofoam has bubbles, like air. It's trapped, so it keeps it's just good insulation, which is why it has that R7 value.
So I've been doing majority of the beekeeping in Alberta, but that one year I did overwinter in BC. Mm-hmm. I overwintered 18 beehives. I didn't wrap any of them.
Right.
And 15 out of the 18 made it.
Sure.
Overwinter. But I think what contributed to that is the area was nobody walked in the area, and there was a very heavy snowfall where it was Enderby, and it's pretty much in the mountains, so they get very heavy snowfall all across that area.
Right.
And snow, the first layer of snow that goes on the bees, I mean, it has to build up. It's pretty much insulation as well. So that's another. If you're in an area where you're on a field and it's going to melt and it's very windy, you need some sort of insulation because there's not going to be any snow, no bushes, nothing to keep anything.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you can have snow banked over top the hives, they can be totally buried for months and they'll be fine.
Right.
They could come out in really good shape. I had some friends in northern Saskatchewan who are probably listening. Years ago, they had a telephone call from a local farmer where they kept bees. Yeah. And it was July, like early July. And the beekeeper that was phoned picks up the phone and said, hey, hi, are you going to unwrap your bees? They had left them wrapped because they forgot the bee yard. Like they were running, a couple thousand colonies and probably thought, oh, well, I'm sure that Fred went out there and unwrapped them. And no, I think George thinks, Fred thinks, and they were left unwrapped into July. And they said it was some of the best wintering they ever had. So the bees weren't bothered. They were underneath all of this equipment, like all wrapped up. So I like to tell people, wrap as late as possible in the year so you don't get caught by a winter snowstorm and then have a lot of trouble wrapping. But if you can wait in our climate, in the prairies and a lot of parts of the north, probably New York State and so on too, if you can wait until the end of October, first week or so of November, and wrap everything up, at that time, and then leave them wrapped as late into the spring as you can, maybe into May, and then unwrap them. Why you want them left wrapped late in the year is because they need as much heat conserved as possible when the queen is building up her brood nest. So if you have a week of really good weather and the brood nest expands, the queen is laying maybe 500 to 1,000 eggs a day, so the nest is getting bigger. Now, I know some people are saying, but Ron, the queen can lay 2,000 eggs a day. She can, but probably not that early in the spring.
Yep.
Because the nest isn't that big yet. And they will lay too many eggs for cold weather that follows in April or May. So you leave them wrapped so that the heat allows the bees to have a bigger brood nest. So, and that's one big advantage with using these insulated boxes as I'm using now.
And insulation kind of works both ways. It protects it from the cold and it protects it from the heat. Mm-hmm. So these styrofoam, I don't know, some people, they say that it releases chemicals into the air. I've heard that if you paint it properly from the outside and then the interior gets coated with propolis, it doesn't have an issue. But once they get to the landfill, apparently styrofoam releases these chemicals into the air.
Oh, I would think that they would. And that is a good caveat. That's a problem that isn't being addressed very well. So if you have foul brood, you're supposed to burn your equipment, American foul brood.
Right.
The best treatment for it is burning everything. And
if you do that with styrofoam, that's just nasty stuff.
That's right. You can't. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know, this is kind of a tangent, but I want to try creating insulated wooden hay boxes. So like using hay, stacked hay, to insulate the wood.
People have done that in the past very successfully. There are, like in southern Hungary, I was at a monastery where the beekeeper there used these thick-walled, like maybe 8 or 9 inch wide walls, and inside was stuffed straw, and the bees stayed in that year-round. And so straw is good. The only thing, what the obvious problem with the straw is in the winter? Mice.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They
will eat it.
Yeah, they'll get in there. They'll find some way, some tiny little hole or crack, and get in there, and they'll make nests in there. Yeah. So unfortunately, you're going to have to figure out a way, setting mouse traps in all of those.
Well, I'm thinking it would be like some sort of, it would be wood, interior would be hay, stacked hay, and then it would be encapsulated in a wood.
In a way that they can't get in.
Yeah, like imagine just like a panel, and then there's a rim around it, and inside the rim you stuff it with these stacks, and then over another flat panel goes over it, and it's about maybe 3 inches, 4 inches thick. I mean, it's gonna be a thick thing, but
a pocket of dead air is good insulation. That's
right.
what they do with your thermos bottle,
and
with windows too. Yes.
Yep.
So that, and then the straw in there, it's basically still just air and just that extra insulation of straw.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I got the idea from this fellow that retrofits your houses with straw walls.
Okay.
And since straw is so abundant in Alberta, you can get it pretty cheap and readily available. So he'll retrofit your house take your original house, build walls on it with these hay things, and with $100,000, you can get your house to be net zero, and then eventually create, not eventually, but like you will create your own surplus electricity.
Oh,
with because your house is so net free. But this is all made from straw.
Wow.
Straw walls.
Wow.
And
so with that initial investment, you could retire in your house as long as you don't spend any money. Maybe have a little garden in the back, produce your own electricity and sell that to get a little cash to buy the things you absolutely have to buy.
I think just to retrofit, it's $50,000. To get the solar panels and stuff like that, it's an additional.
Another 50
but
or so.
I don't know. I guess it's expensive. But the idea was that the government should be retrofitting houses to be net zero.
Maybe.
Excuse me. But I really like those like earth mound houses or like just houses that are just
built right into a north bank of a hill.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
then it's facing south and a lot of windows in it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably not realistic for everybody to be living in something like this, but
everything helps.
Yeah.
Even like I don't have solar panels yet, and I'm glad I don't because they keep coming down in price and getting more efficient. But when I was a kid in maybe the early 80s or so, I should say during the 70s, my father built these greenhouses that became our family business.
Yeah,
and the
that's right.
greenhouses he aligned so they would capture the most sun, and he also put in like a homemade heat reserve with rocks and put silver painting on one
To
wall
absorb
to reflect the heat into the soil and cut his heat bills way down.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, exactly. It's like just little stuff like that that
If
goes very
everybody
along.
did-
If everybody,
Right.
But the question: do I have to wrap my bees for winter? If you're in Alberta and you're using wooden boxes, yes.
Yes.
But everything else, it depends.
It depends. All right. What do we have next?
Oh, this one's a long one.
Okay.
Our office has been approached by a company that will help us save the bees by putting 2 beehives on our roof and will give us honey. They say it supports biodiversity and they will charge us $5,000 a year. Is this a good deal? Question mark.
Oh, let me moan and cry for a little while.
I'll do it for $2,000. No.
Well, you should be able to do it for $2,000, but no, it's not good. It's not good on about a dozen levels. First of all, that's way too much money to be paying out to, there are beekeepers looking for places to put their bees and won't charge you anything. They just want to have a spot to put bees.
And they'll give you free honey.
And they'll give you free honey.
But that's, I think who knows?
Well,
they're charging so much.
There are companies that will write up a contract and give you credits, like if you own a big building and you want green
carbon credits or whatever.
Well, not so much carbon. They actually have green credits.
Oh, they got green credits.
So it's basically greenwashing with bees, which
Bee-washing.
is bee washing.
Yeah,
and they will advertise it and say, well, you're going to save the bees. You're going to increase biodiversity. Wrong and wrong, because the honeybees don't need saving. We know that. We've talked about it before on this show. Honeybees are essential. They're important. They produce not only honey, but they're vital, absolutely essential for the type of farming we do these days that feeds 8 billion people around the world.
Yeah.
We need honeybees. And because we need them so much, there's an economic interest in keeping them alive. Now, they're struggling, and they get all kinds of diseases, and they get stressed from the climate and stressed from having to be moved into different pollination contracts. So honeybees are not having an easy time, but they're not needing to be saved because the people who need them are taking care of them. And there are at least twice as many honeybee colonies in the world now as there were 50 years ago. Those are the kept honeybee hives. And the wild honeybee hives, there are about 4 times as many wild bees, so 4 wild colonies for every kept hive, according to people who have gone into the field and researched and counted. Not maybe in your backyard, but as a world statistic. So honeybees are fine. And if they're putting honeybees on your building and charging you money for that and giving you a little green stamp that you can stick on your envelopes, I feel that's like a big ripoff, and it's untrue and unfair. So there are companies making money off of doing this crap, and talking people into doing it, telling them what a good thing they're doing, and the bees that need helped are actually potentially, not always, but potentially being hurt by the fact that you put honeybees on your
right. So $5,000 a year, right? So kind of just to put numbers behind it, to get a beehive, to get all the equipment, to get your beekeeping suit, your smoker, and whatnot, it's probably going to be about $1,000.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, depending on where you source it.
Right.
But roughly $1,000.
Yes.
So they're going to put 2 beehives. So one beehive costs $350. So let's say $1,000. So they're giving you an offer, a package deal of $1,300, $1,300 offer, pretty much. And then they're also adding a $4,700 premium. $3,700 premium because of their expertise. I don't know. It's up.
Read that sentence again. They say it supports biodiversity, and they will charge us $5,000 a year.
Yeah. So they are slightly. Well, they're not slightly. That's misleading.
They're gouging.
They're gouging, and they're trying to tug at string hearts, or what's the word? Heartstrings?
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what you're saying. They're trying to appeal to our emotions and make us feel like, well, the bees are going extinct, and I don't want to be part of that. I want to help. Now, that's good.
That's good.
It's absolutely great that people want to help and want to do the best thing possible.
But this won't help you accomplish that.
No. And
so
if it's promoted as something that helps biodiversity, that's absolutely wrong.
It is wrong, yeah. But if that's what they're claiming, that's wrong.
That's
and
what
that's
this
not
outfit that like the people who sent me this note had sent me some literature from the outfit too.
If they were claiming that, hey, they'll manage bees for you, or honeybees, and they'll let you keep all the honey and whatnot, and right. I don't know. That's up to you to think that $5,000. Maybe they have a bunch of money to throw around, but
I have
supporting biodiversity it's not it.
It's not, because it's actually honeybees will differentially pollinate flowers that are of a few species, and not the wildflowers that is part of biodiversity. And those species, at least in North America, that are most pollinated by honeybees are agricultural crops.
Yeah.
So alfalfa, sweet clover, canola. I don't know the history of soybeans, but
they get pollinated?
Yes. Oh. And they make some honey. And, a lot of plants that weren't native to North America but are grown in monoculture, huge fields, are pollinated very effectively by honeybees and by some other bees too that might be in the area. Yeah. But that's not supporting biodiversity.
That's right.
It's actually taking away the plants that the native bees might have been living from. I was just going to add one more little thought. And one of my sisters, hi Jane, she lives in San Diego. And when I went to see her about a year ago, we went out for a dinner. Yeah. And she wanted to take me to this really nice restaurant, and it was nice. The food was delicious. The people in there were so friendly. It was just really nice. But the guy's big selling thing as you're walking in is, we have bees on our roof. We use our own honey.
Right.
So I asked him, how do you keep? Like, do you go up there? Do you take care of your? No. It's some outfit that comes up there and takes care of the bees for us. And I thought, okay, how do you know it's your own honey? He probably has 20 restaurants where he has bees on the roof, and he is not, by any stretch of the imagination, able to keep your honey separate from anybody else's honey. It just doesn't work that way.
Not 100% anyways.
Not 100%.
Yeah,
no.
They could get close.
And
unless they have 10 extractors and 10 different
tanks and 10 different. And plus, if you have a really bad crop one year, you still want that restaurant to have honey.
Yeah.
So where's that coming from? Yeah, I know.
Well,
I know. There's so many gimmicks out there. We just have to have a very skeptical
What-
mind, not be cynical like I am. I hope people don't get as cynical as me. But I think people need to at least have a mind that says, I wonder, okay, it's probably not their honey, but I never told the guy that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to first of all, say something that in reality might not be, I might be wrong.
Yeah. It could be their honey, yeah.
It could be. I don't think it was.
But yeah, I guess maybe a lot of these businesses, they're kind of on the lines of whatever they don't know won't hurt them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But
right.
This doesn't support biodiversity.
No. Okay.
Donating $5,000 to a charity that supports biodiversity might be.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a really
yeah.
good
That's
idea.
actually there's one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
The Native Bee Council.
Oh yeah, the Alberta Native Bee Council. That's certainly supporting the native wild bees and biodiversity.
That's right.
There are also plant organizations,
Yeah.
and these exist in almost every state, in almost every province. There are places to support these things,
Yeah.
and yeah, I like the way you threw that out because that's a good point. If you're serious about this, and these guys come knocking on your door with their pamphlets and their big smiles, and they say, for $5,000 a year, we'll put bees and you'll be, supporting this and that. And I'd say, tell them goodbye, don't wish them luck, and instead plant some wild flowers that are native to your area and donate $5,000 to a charity.
Yeah.
And you'll be helping a lot more.
Try to maybe a local charity, probably
Yes.
the best idea. But
Yes.
yeah. All right. Next question. We sell honey. I know it's good to cure tuberculosis, cancer, and hair loss. What else should I tell our customers? Oh wow! Look,
yeah, this one floored me when I saw it because we're constantly trying to tell people
TB honey.
TB, tuberculosis. That. Okay, what do you think? What would you tell your customers?
I wrote a blog about the properties of honey, and in that blog, I listed out, I think, over like 20 different things that it's good for, and just it's good for digestion. It's It's good for your, I don't know. That's kind of the energy, all
level.
sorts of stuff. But I don't think I have tuberculosis, cancer, or hair loss listed anywhere.
Do you know how many bald beekeepers there are out there? I wonder if the person who wrote this, like a lot, there are a lot. I'm losing my hair.
You know what? Ever since I started beekeeping, I've started to lose my hair too.
Well, it comes with a certain age too, but
right.
But yeah, no. If you sell honey, you don't know. I know it's good for these things. No, it's not. It's not good for curing tuberculosis, cancer, and hair loss. With a nice cup of Earl Grey tea, or maybe some berry type of tea with some honey in it, and then you make a little ritual of sitting down with it and closing your eyes and sipping on. I'll bet it would reduce cancer. It might even reduce the rate of hair loss. And,
maybe. And
if you have a constant cough, it might hide the blood that you're spitting up with TB. So do what Bidzina is doing, folks, and promote your honey as having genuinely good health benefits, but don't exaggerate or push things like, you're selling medical advice. Are you selling medicine? Is this a pharmacy that you have in your backyard with the bees? In a sense, it could be a natural pharmacy, but not the kind that you're going to say, take 2 tablespoons a day and, and your hair will grow back and you won't have, cancer, and you're like, no.
I'm wondering if a person were to go on a beekeeper's diet, and I just made that up.
Okay.
And pretty much what a beekeeper's diet is you still eat your regular food, but you incorporate royal jelly, propolis, beeswax, honey, and then maybe even a little bit of bees into your diet.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you also have to be beekeeping, getting stung by them, getting some of the venom in, and then also breathe in some of that, their aroma that they produce.
Right.
And maybe even, if you have the funds, set up a bee cabin where you sleep in a room with beehives underneath your bed.
Yeah, or if you're really poor and you're starting out in beekeeping, like some of my friends, they slept on top of beehives.
Yeah, that's actually get an air mattress.
But I hear you,
Yeah.
and I wonder
what would happen?
that'd be quite the beekeeper's diet.
If a cancer patient were to try that,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't want to recommend anything.
But
That's a horrible disease, and thankful for modern medicine, it has been able to save a lot of people's lives and extend a lot of lives. But
yeah, sure. I shouldn't have said that. But maybe if even of a healthy person, like if anyone, I wonder if anyone has attempted or.
I don't think so, except for maybe some people like John the Baptist. He supposedly ate locusts and honey. That's what he survived on in the desert.
Huh?
That was Jesus' cousin, the one who baptized Jesus, according to the legends, according to the stories.
I should know these
You
stories.
should. Your uncle is a priest. Come on, man.
Yeah.
So, now there's a little more that I can say about John the Baptist eating honey and surviving on locusts. What we think now is the word locust has two meanings in the Bible's translation. And when you translate it into the locust that's an insect, then that gives you this, great image of John out there picking up grasshoppers off the ground and dipping them in honey and eating them and staying alive. And I don't doubt that he'd stay alive because you've got the protein there.
So
and
locust
you've got the energy.
Was
grasshopper.
It was a grasshopper. Okay.
Okay, but there's another way to translate the word in the Bible that translates often or most typically into locust. The other way is to translate it into the words carob beans. So there are beans that grow on like a plant, the carob plant, and we sometimes use carob as a chocolate substitute. It's we can grind up the beans and use them. It's high protein,
right,
and very healthy.
Right.
So some scholars will say that actually he wasn't eating insects. He might have been, but some scholars say it was this bean that could have been what they meant when they wrote the New Testament.
Because it's blasphemy or something to eat bugs. I don't know.
Well, that's a good point too. I hadn't even thought of that, but in typical Jewish tradition, we would not eat insects or any part of an insect.
Yeah,
that would be against
or even shellfish or anything that's considered to be an insect, like bottom crawler.
That's right.
Yeah.
And insects are completely forbidden under most of the sects of of the Jewish tradition.
Semitic religion. Yeah,
right. So it would be highly unlikely that John the Baptist, who was Jewish, would have been out there eating locusts. He probably just wasn't. Okay. He was probably eating these beans. I hadn't thought of that before. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of.
Oh, your brain is amazing. I've been listening to some of our old podcasts, and I think, where did he come up with that? It's either outlandishly crazy, or it outlandishly hits the mark so well, like you just did.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people are messing. Oh, you're messing with me right now because
just a little bit. I do want to say that I respect the way you think of things that are kind of off the wall, and we need people who think like that. It's really important for progress.
Well, it's important, but I genuinely believe more people think like me, but they're afraid to share their opinion, whether it has due to reputation or maybe it's been beaten out of them, but probably got to do with more reputation. But I think everyone should be able to say what they're thinking
Yes.
Otherwise, what are you thinking that it's so bad that you don't want to tell the world? Maybe we need to hear it so we can
lock you up.
Well, I don't know. Well, that's the whole point of free speech, right? Is to allow all speech so we can determine what is bad speech and what is good speech. Otherwise, we don't know if there's some arbitrary decision maker.
Well, I want to extend that just a little bit further. This we're recording right now is, I think, the 15th or maybe it's the 16th time that you and I have sat together to record an episode for the About Bees podcast.
Yep.
And I have a lot of respect for how open and honest you have been with some of the stupidest mistakes any beekeeper could ever make.
Yeah.
And if you don't tell us those, there are a lot of people out there who would make those mistakes. And I probably made them so long ago in my past, although I did have the advantage of growing up in a family with two brothers who were already older than me, beekeepers, like 8-10 years older than me. And also, my father was a beekeeper.
Right.
So that protected me from making a lot of mistakes, although I still made my share of mistakes. But since most of those were made 30 or 40 years or longer ago when I was on my own, keeping my own bees, I don't really remember anymore, It goes. But you're new. You're new at it, and you've been really open sharing, and I hope that people have been taking advantage of your ideas and listening, and then, saying, oh, that doesn't work. I was going to try that.
Well, I think they're getting a world-class education by listening to this podcast. So,
well, I hope so. I do hope so. It's growing. It's nice to have people out there, and thank you. And as we go through this mailbox, I would like to say we have a couple of ways of reaching us. Among those are the YouTube channel where people are writing in comments. Yeah. And I think, Bidzina, you have some questions there that you can bring up from the YouTube channel.
I will get to those later, but I want to finish these up.
Okay.
I don't know how many.
Oh, I have a lot. So we may not, it might be a good time to take a break here and do some YouTube questions.
Okay. I was actually going to bring up a question from one of the group members in the Beekeepers Association.
Oh, okay.
They sent me an article. I don't know. They thought it's a very important, event that took place here in August. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. He wants it to be talked about in the meeting, but I don't think that could ever. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
Like one of the monthly meetings that happens, but
for the Calgary Beekeepers District Beekeepers Association.
But I thought it would be a great topic to bring up during the podcast.
Okay.
So he asked. Does anybody? So seeing your post about the upcoming meetings reminded me to do this. Not sure who to ask this about, but I thought the other day about this. This would be an interesting lecture. So the title of the article is "Who Managed the Giant Highway Bee Transport Spill in Burlington, August 30th, 2023." I'd love to hear more about these logistics of rescuing 5 million bees off the highway. Mm-hmm. Should we talk about that a little bit? Apparently, last year, there was 5 million bees.
We certainly can. I think on one of our episodes where we were talking about the practical realities of moving bees, we discussed the fact that not too far from Disney World in Florida, my brother and I came upon a big wreck. A semi had gone off the road.
Right.
That was carrying beehives.
Yep.
And so here's what typically will happen. The accident occurs, somebody phones 911 to report it, and they hopefully will also add the fact that it looks like there were honeybee boxes involved so that the police and fire trucks who arrive will be cautioned ahead of time to, not just jump out and head towards it, because spilled bees are going to be really upset. And
so that's what we got here. So local beekeeper help police catch millions of bees accidentally set loose near Toronto. With the help of a handful of local beekeepers, police managed to recapture millions of bees that were accidentally set free in Burlington on Wednesday morning. Police said shortly after 6 a.m., a pickup truck was hauling about 5 million bees in crates using open trailer when the crates slid into a roadway on Golf Lane, just north of Dundas Street. I believe this is now quote from someone from CTV. I believe the straps somehow came loose, Constable Ryan Anderson told CTV. The crates came off the trailer and opened up, and about 5 million bees were set free in the area of that intersection. Police urged motorists passing by to keep their windows up and told pedestrians to avoid the area altogether. But I thought we could just quickly touch this answer, and I don't know if this person will ever hear this, but I thought it was very interesting.
Right. They can listen to this podcast because in general,
month and a half, yeah.
Right. No, we record a few weeks ahead, and we do that in order to be able to release every week. We have an episode coming out. And Bidzina, you're in university, you're in your last year, you're getting busier and busier. I think it might not be possible for us to record every single week for the next little while, but we have some backed up. So when they do hear this, I think the question, since the accident happened in October of 2023, I think it's still going to be relevant.
It is kind of relevant, but I thought it was just recently, but now that I saw it was 2023. But the question pretty much was, I'd love to hear more about the logistics of rescuing 5 million bees off a highway. Right. And then you have that story of rescuing 5 million bees off a highway yourself.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right.
It was probably 5 million.
It was probably a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So
nobody wrote an article about that. I mean, I'm just saying it happens often.
It happens,
and I think people kind of just
create
this craze.
And in other parts of the world too, there was recently a story about a young lad in Turkey who was moving the family's beehives in a big, huge truck. He lost control coming down a hill. The young man was killed. Yeah, and the bees were scattered everywhere.
Oh my God!
So it happens. It happens over and over again in different parts of the world.
The load
is heavy. Yeah, and
brakes can go out.
Yeah, in this case, I don't quite understand why they came up with the idea that there were 5 million bees involved. If it was a strap on the back of a truck or trailer, you would have to have 100 colonies of bees with 50,000 bees in each one, which isn't likely. I mean, 35 or 40,000 would be the more likely population.
That's the.
Let me see. You've got a picture here.
So it looks like half of them.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell. There might have been 100 colonies in the back of this, and then it would have been much more than just a strap. But we do see some beekeepers on a trailer. It's a lowboy trailer, just a 2-axle, so they couldn't have been too heavy on the trailer. And then it was a standard, 1-ton size of a pickup truck, maybe like an F-150 or something in that range that was pulling it with a ball hitch.
So it couldn't have been too heavy of a load.
No, it couldn't have been too heavy, not with just the 2 axles under it. So I'm not sure where they came up with 5 million bees, although that's a nice catchy number.
That is.
So
maybe it was 500,000, but they were like, let's just add a zero.
You never know. Yeah. You never know how that number got put out there. But it's definitely a real problem, a terrible accident for the people who were involved. Luckily, nobody got hurt. And except for bees, and bees do feel pain, so the poor animals were all shaken up. Some of them were crushed, killed, spilt, lost. They went to the air, and then they didn't find a nest to go back into. It's all pretty rough. The logistics. So somebody calls it in. In this case, the police were alerted to tell motorists to keep their windows rolled up as they went past.
Right.
Don't slow down or roll down your window to look because we're going to be scraping you up next. So what happens then is usually most cities are in contact with the local beekeeping club. Our city of Calgary has a number it can call if there's a swarm or other problem with bees, and then the club will jump into action as quickly as possible. So the logistics would have involved somebody getting a message within an hour or two of the accident and calling buddies and saying, hey, got something really exciting going on this morning. We're all going to scrape up bees off of the 401 between Burlington and Toronto. So they go out there and dressed up with their suits and everything. And the equipment, for the most part, in the type of accident that this is illustrating, the equipment would have stayed pretty much bonded together. So there weren't loose combs all over the road. There were in the big semi-accident that my brother and I, my brother Dave and I, had to pick up. There were combs just scattered everywhere. I'll come to that in just another minute. But in this particular case, it looks like most of the boxes were still together. So it'd be a matter of picking up the boxes and identifying, if there were a two-story colony, where's the second box, and probably really close by. They probably would have tumbled and rolled a little bit, but they stay glued together pretty well. So if, the type of accident that happened there, some of them sliding off into the ditch or whatever had happened, then it's not that hard to smoke them. They will still respond to the smoke. Smoke the boxes. You're totally suited up because they could be extremely defensive in a situation like this. So you've got your gloves on, you've got your veil on. It's not like Bidzina out there in his flip-flops and his T-shirt. You're going to have to be dressed up to do this job, and you're going to keep your thinking hat on all the time and say, I wonder if this belongs to that box. Where's the lid? Do we have any extra lids? Did anybody see? And you restack the equipment on the back of that trailer. And most of the bees are so confused and frightened that they'll see these boxes, not necessarily their own hive. They will get into the wrong boxes. But the queens will typically stay in the equipment that they fell off in.
Right. Because they have a hard time flying.
They do. They do have a harder time flying. Yeah. Yes, that's
they can hover and whatnot.
But they do. Once they start egg laying.
After mating.
Then it's much harder for them to fly. So that's probably the logistics that person was asking about.
I guess to kind of it's pretty much just like another cleanup on the highway, but with bees involved.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, which is kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, the first cleanup accident I'd ever seen in my life on a highway was a bread truck. One of these vans that they used to deliver bread door to door, even out in the countryside. And somebody had a bad accident, and their van back, this would be like a six-wheel vehicle back 40, 50 years ago. And the loaves of bread were all over the highway.
Wow.
And we didn't stop. Like the police said, anybody want bread? We got bread. Take some bread. We didn't do that.
Help them with the cleanup a little bit. But that's kind of the logistics of it. But I don't think we actually answered this question. So he said, we sell honey. I know it's good to cure TB, cancer, and hair loss. What else should I tell our customers? Don't tell them that. And maybe do a little bit of Wikipediaing, because I think Wikipedia will not say this.
Or look for your website where you tell about all the things that are true. Yeah. I hope they're all true.
I took it. My website is down temporarily.
Okay. Okay. But the point is, we do want people to promote honey as a good food, but not as a medicine.
Yeah. Now I was kind of going through some of the questions, and there's only kind of one that's
from YouTube channel?
Yeah, well, actually from TikTok.
Okay.
And it's the only one that's kind of relevant. The other ones are more comments than questions. Mm-hmm. But this person, they commented about our clip when you were talking about tobacco farming in the 1870s depleting soil.
Yes.
And Nielsen Zach commented, did they not know that monoculture always causes that issue?
No. Oh, that's new. Is this new to you too? No, of course we know that. Of course we.
Well, at the time, did they know? Maybe they did not. I don't think they did, right? And I don't think even farmers are aware of monoculture, but if you ask an everyday person, they don't even know what that means.
Well, the farmers would be more aware, and they know about crop rotation.
Right.
Now, actually, I'll take it. I'll take back my big exclamation there. That did they not know about it? Did they not know about it in 1870? I don't know the answer.
Maybe it wasn't as widespread, but I'm sure someone knew.
By 1920, we had on that same podcast, we showed pictures of them plowing under sweet clover in order to enrich the soil.
Yeah.
So that's a form of building up the soil by crop rotating and not, doing monoculture. So monoculture, usually we think of monoculture as being huge, extensive fields of the same type of plant. The problems with that are once a virus or a mold or an insect that's attacking that particular kind of a plant gets going, it's hard to stop because all the plants are the same. It just moves right through the whole thing. And so that's a downside of monoculture in that respect. But monoculture can also refer to growing the same crop year after year after year after year after year on the same spot in the same soil. Yep. And once you do that, you are depleting the soil.
Yeah.
So, what's the name of the person? I want to apologize to.
Nielsen Zach.
Nielsen? Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood.
Zach Nielsen, I guess.
Zach Nielsen?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Zach, or Mr. Zach Nielsen.
Here, you could even see his face if you'd like.
Oh, what a nice-looking guy. Yeah. Okay. Well, where'd you get his picture? Have you been exchanging emails with your fans?
No, his profile is public.
Okay.
He's just commented publicly.
Yeah.
But
no, that's great. That's a good question. Did they not know? I guess
probably not.
Probably not everybody knew. No.
Yeah. Should we do a hot round of some questions? Just like a quick one, just like more like yes or no type of deal. Let's do a little hot round.
Okay.
So I have 10 hives, and I am tired of being told to use chemicals to control mites and brood diseases and nosema. Won't they just develop resistance if I don't treat anything?
No.
No. Okay.
You're not serious. We have to answer this question. Don't we have to explain?
There's like 10 minutes. Well, this is kind of a silly question.
Okay.
I have 10 hives, and I'm tired of being told to use chemicals. Well, it's this reality.
But that's reality, but won't they just develop resistance if I don't treat anything? So what do you think the answer to that is?
It depends what you're using.
It depends.
You're
right.
Yeah, well, if you're using Apivar strips all the time, I think they'll develop resistance to Apivar strips. I don't think they develop resistance to Formic Pro.
I think what they're asking is whether the
to the diseases.
Yeah, the bees will develop resistance against all those diseases.
If you breed the best one, eventually, but not all of them.
It's that's a really tough one. And in theory, it can be done.
Yeah.
And let's take the example of American foul brood. So if you have hygienic bees, these are bees that clean their nest better than others. So some bees are pretty sloppy. Some honey bees, some of the subspecies, even some within a subspecies, will just not tend to clean out dead bees very frequently.
So you could breed those species out. So you could
So you could
do it.
You could build up an AFB resistant type of a bee where the typical routine that they do is they would have a number of colonies of bees and place a comb of brood that has a section of the brood chilled or killed. So you could take a good frame of brood and put a little canister, little spot, little circle of liquid nitrogen over top the brood in just one spot.
Yeah.
And it'll kill it. And then you can see whether the bees will peel back the cappings and remove the dead from inside. And some bees do that right away, and those are very hygienic. And others, they'll just kind of work around the dead part and kind of ignore it for a long time. So you're breeding for that particular type of quality in the bees.
So you could start bee eugenics if you like.
Right, and that's what it would be.
Yeah.
Yes, yep. So, but here's Beegenics.
Beegenics, yeah.
Yeah, but the big problem with that is that it will only work if you're in a very, very isolated area.
Yes.
Because the breeding
Cross.
program, right, yeah, the drones will fly quite a few kilometers and into a drone congregation area, and then you're raising queens, and they fly out. Now, there has been some success off the coast of Brazil. There's an island. Don't remember the island, but I'm sure somebody can Google it and come up with what island in the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of Brazil has honeybees that are resistant to varroa. And there's an island there where no other bees were brought in, and when varroa was introduced, most of the colonies died, but a few of them didn't, and they learned to survive with varroa.
So it's doable.
It's doable,
it's
but you'd have to be you'd have to be in a very isolated area or do artificial insemination of all your queens in order to keep the line going, and all of that's impractical for most beekeepers.
So pretty much you could do it in a laboratory if you wanted to, but
yeah.
Should I plant flowers for my honeybees? I own almost 10 acres. Yes.
No.
No? Okay.
No, not for your honeybees. Do it for the wild native bees.
But if they want more honey, what if they want more honey?
No.
Okay.
No. The think about how the honeybee operates as a society. They always send out scouts to look for food.
Yeah.
And the scout is going to have to come back with knowledge about a huge acreage, more than 10 acres. We're talking 1,000 acres, 100 acres, or a grove of really big trees. And then it will come back to the hive, and it'll advertise that.
Yes.
And maybe a sister scout bee has flown into the backyard and found some really nice geraniums growing in a row. You planted that for the bees.
Yeah.
And come back and say, hey, forget that big field of canola that's 2 miles away. I've got something right here, just outside the door.
Yeah.
How many plants? Oh, maybe a dozen. No, they won't go. They won't go. So bumblebees and native bees will have a range of just maybe at the most a few hundred meters.
Whoa.
And they don't have scout bees telling them where to go. So every bee is on its own when it flies out, and it will look for plants to get resources off of, and that's who you would be helping. If you have 10 acres and you plant it with native, local varieties of flowers, then those flowers are going to seriously help the local bees.
Right.
But your honeybees want to fly. They want to go a long distance. It's just their nature.
It's a futile battle.
Yes. Some people have planted, an acre or 5 acres or whatever, in one type of a highly producing type of a plant, and the bees will work on it as long as there's nothing else that's bigger somewhere else around. But in general, I would say no, you're not going to make much of a difference, probably none at all.
Okay. Can bees get drunk if I feed them fermented honey for winter?
Yeah.
If you want to party with your bees, that's a way to do it.
They'll get drunk, but they'll also get dead if you feed them something that's fermented just before winter.
Yeah, I don't know if he should. The question she or he should have asked: can bees die if I feed them fermented?
Yeah. And
what do you mean get drunk?
Most likely. Well, they do.
Yeah, right. But
they do get a buzz.
Where's the laugh button?
I don't know. Do you want to try the buttons until you hit a laugh button? I don't know where they're.
Oh no.
No, not that one. That's a good one. Okay.
All right.
We'll leave it at that one.
Okay, that's enough.
They get a buzz. They do get a buzz if they get drunk. So they will become intoxicated by fermented honey, and I would not feed that to the bees for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
One is we try to avoid feeding any honey to the bees unless it's from our own hives, and we know that we don't have disease.
Yeah.
So if we're not transmitting a foul brood back to the bees by feeding them honey, then that's fine. Feed them honey. But if the honey is watered down and starting to sour,
It shouldn't be fermenting.
No. And at that point, it's not going to be a good food for them to winter on. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, your bees will get drunk and then they will die.
Good. Nice succinct answer.
Can we extract honey that's not sealed? I see mixed messages on the internet.
Well, don't go on the internet anymore.
Okay. Or they mean like the cappings.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, not capped.
If the frames aren't
Sealed.
capped.
Yeah.
Yeah, sealed, capped. Yeah, don't go on the internet.
Yeah. It's still safe to extract combs that are beginning to be sealed, and maybe it depends. It depends. Depends on your climate more than anything else. In a dry climate, the bees will have converted and dried out the honey pretty quickly, and it doesn't have to be sealed. But as a good general indication of whether your honey is dry enough that it won't ferment. See, that goes good with the last question, fermentation. So they might have extracted honey that was too wet.
And they're like, I'm not going to eat this myself.
Yeah, I'll feed it to the bees.
Yeah.
No. So what was I going to? Oh, yeah. How much sealed honey should you have? Here's what I would suggest is if the combs are about 2/3 sealed, you're going to be almost absolutely perfectly fine, because what's underneath the cappings that is already sealed, the 2/3 of the honey that you're extracting, will have very low moisture.
That will mix in with...
It'll mix in with the other. And if you have a lot of combs that aren't sealed at all, you might just want to extract along with a lot of combs that are totally sealed.
Another trick that I've heard is if you're, you find a frame that's not capped, you could take it out and kind of give it a little shake.
Yes.
And if it's you could see it
Dripping.
nectar dripping out, then it's not ready.
That's right.
But if there's nothing dripping out, come on.
Then it's pretty close to being dry enough. Yeah. So dry enough is technically 18.6% water or moisture in the honey. If it has more than that, the honey can ferment. And that's why we try to avoid taking honey that's not sealed, because there is a risk that its moisture level is still higher. But you could use a refractometer. They cost about $100 now. Maybe go in with some friends and check your honey before you pull off the combs. Look for parts that are not sealed, and if the honey is 19 or 20%, wait a few days and let it dry out a little bit more.
Yeah, so the mixed messages you're getting, I would say trust your gut. Taste a little honey, and if it makes your stomach upset, then
trust your gut. Okay.
I think it's this one, actually.
That works too for you. Okay, we have buttons for people who are listening. This very fancy studio here at the Mount Royal University has a recording board with 8 buttons.
Soundboard,
Yeah, and our sounds they just range from the obscure to the sublime. Okay.
That's actually useful.
Very useful, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I finished my 2nd year of beekeeping.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm not being sarcastic, but 2 years in a row, I have no honey. Wow, that's unfortunate. But lots of capped brood and bees. We have lots of garden flowers next to the hives. And I think my bees are genetically lazy. What do you think?
I would hate to be that person's neighbor. They sound like incredibly judgmental. Okay. Lazy bees.
Well, it's funny. I have the busy bee kind of. That's what I call my honey. I want to create a brand called Lazy Bee, and then this honey. So busy bees for PM, and then, AM, you eat that in the morning.
Yes.
And your lazy bee, you eat at night. It's mixed in with something.
I love your
help.
marketing sense. See, this is good. You're getting a marketing degree here at the university, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah,
But
so
I don't know.
marketing.
I thought it was just like, but it would be the same honey. It would be the same honey, but the AM will be a little bit priced high.
Now, you just gave it away, you know? It'll be the same honey. So now you're committing fraud. Okay?
No. I'm just like, if you add like melatonin to the lazy bee.
Yeah, now you're illegally selling drugs.
Well, yeah.
But
I don't know. I just thought it just... Some bees can be lazy, but that's very rare, unless they have something wrong with them.
Good. I would agree with you.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if they're healthy.
Yeah. So 2 years as a new beekeeper, not producing any honey, it happens, and maybe not so frequently in a place like Alberta, Canada. But if you were keeping bees in, say, the state of Virginia or in New Mexico or somewhere where the crops tend to be smaller, and 40 or 50 pounds could be a good crop in that neighborhood. Yeah. You're still building up your hives. You're still drawing foundation and so on. So I would say just give it another go. Don't think your bees are genetically lazy. Yeah. Not everybody's related to me. But instead, just kind of stick with it. And don't worry so much about the flowers you have in your garden. We talked about that in the last question.
That's right. But yeah, keep at it. And there's never a good year in beekeeping. No, I shouldn't. There's good years, but you'll have plenty where
really just won't make anything.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, well, what am I doing? And sometimes you're doing everything right, but but that's all. Was
that it? Was that the last question?
That was the last question.
Well, it's a good time to quit anyway.
Yeah.
I think we covered a lot. And I don't know if we have anything else. Do you want to add anything to today's conversation or questions?
No. I mean, we could go over those comments that some people some have made rude comments. And
if you want to see some really rude comments, folks, just go to our YouTube channel.
Funny enough, only I can see the rude comment. I think YouTube has censored it on publicly.
You think so?
When I've tried to view it from like a regular, it doesn't show up. But I have it here. Like, I thought the guy deleted it, but I still have it here in my. But he said.
So you want to go out on a high note and tell everybody some rude comment about our podcast?
Maybe let me just double check if I'm actually correct. If maybe it is there, and I'm just.
But we really appreciate the question. So while Bidzina is digging deeply into the archives there, looking for rude comments from you guys listening to us, just want to remind you that you can send your questions in to us. And if you didn't get a chance to jot down that address, Ron, that's me, at About Bees, one word, dot, little round symbol, N-E-T. So it's a net, at aboutbees.net. Thank you. So if you do have anything, send it there, post it on the YouTube channel or Bidzina's beekeeping webpage, and or on my blog. It's the Bad Beekeeping blog. You just search for Bad Beekeeping blog, and it'll pop up. There's a few thousand readers every month, every issue, like every time it comes out. So go ahead.
So I could be accusing YouTube of something that they didn't do, actually. I don't know. I see the comment on my end. Maybe it's available to everyone as well. But I'll just read it out here. So Texan6673 said, these people are defeatists, and probably don't even care if they're spreading lies. Do some research.
Wow. And what topic was that about? Tolstoy?
It was for what happens when bees. What happens when the bees are gone? When all the bees are gone. We were taught, and maybe he misinterpreted as honeybees, or I don't know. We could listen to the clip here.
When we lose a quarter of the bees and maybe another quarter in another 30 years, we could be inflicting a lot of damage that we don't even know. We don't even understand how this one is related to that thing.
It's like that star system. You know, when you it's like there's weights, there's like one going down here and one going out there, but it's perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
And as soon as you take one off, it goes all over the place. You can take the middle one off, it'll go all over the place. But you put it back and
So when we lose
Okay, but
so the question
10 people liked it.
Okay, like the bad comment?
But like the video.
Oh, okay. Well, that's actually a lot when you consider that we've only been live for about a month, and the fact that most people don't bother to like or dislike anything.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
People
got to thank the person for taking the time to write and misunderstand what the piece was about. Apparently, they are thinking that we are defeatists because we acknowledge the fact that the news and scientists have reported that roughly a quarter of all species had disappeared in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
in that one genre, that one section that we were talking about.
So what the research shows.
That's what the research shows.
Yeah.
So, yes, if you want to be a real defeatist, just repeat the scientific literature.
Yeah, and he said do some research. So that
boy.
We were repeat.
Sorry, Tex. The guy's Tex, right? Or is he
Texan.
Taxidermist. Okay.
Taxidermist.
He's stuffed.
No,
Anyway.
Texan.
Texan.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I got it. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
let's live on a high note. So Stephanie Burridge, I'm so sorry if I can't pronounce his name, 306, commented on Patrick's most recent episode on Patrick. Thank you so much, Patrick, for sharing your beekeeping expertise. I loved watching this broadcast. How much will be luckier students to have you as a teacher?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
They will be. They'll be very lucky. And he is going into the education field here very shortly. So that's what and he was a teacher back in Cameroon in Africa.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no,
he'll be a great teacher.
I thought we just ended off there on a little happy note.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get out of here.
Yes. See us next Monday, Mountain Standard Time, 8 a.m. every Monday.
8 a.m. And I think the one that's coming up is going to be really interesting. We're talking to somebody who trains dogs to sniff out.
C4. No.
to sniff out foul brood in honeybees, and also to look for wayward bumblebee nests where they need to be removed.
Yep.
And so her dogs are able to find these with their super sensitive noses.
Yeah. But the episode will be released before this episode.
Oh, that's right.
I just realized.
Okay, well then you know what? I'll fix that.
I'm gonna leave it in the YouTube. But anyways, we almost broke Patrick's record of 145.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas
let's let Patrick's record stand, and we'll go now. Okay, folks. See you next time.
Yeah.